Well, kia ora, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Strategic Planning and Policy Committee meeting of the 4th of June. Welcome back. Let's kick into, we've already had a cup of care this morning, so I think we can just kick straight into this agenda as it's. So straight into apologies. I have apologies here from Bill Harris. And other than Bill, I think we're a full complement. So I'm happy to move that from the chair. Can I have a seconder? Claire will second that. I'll put the motion that they be accepted. All in favour say aye. Against, carried. Cool. Moving on then to disclosure of members' interest. Do we have any disclosures of interest that people wish to declare at this point? Regards our agenda? No? Cool. Excellent. I'm not aware of there being any late items. No. Confirmation of the order of the meeting. I don't believe there's any need to change anything. It's pretty straightforward. So I shall, the recommendation is that it be confirmed. You're going to move that for me, Lou, and Dale Marie will second it. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Coolio. So confirmation of the order, the confirmation of minutes from the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. Oh, there you go. There's only one resolution, even though there are two sets of agendas, because the one of them is kind of an empty agenda, if you like, or minutes rather. So that resolution is obviously the usual resolution in respect to the accuracy of our minutes. Are you going to move that for me, Claire? I'll be looking for a seconder. Marcus. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Fabulous, thank you. Moving on then to one of our substantive items this morning, and that is our hearing and deliberations in respect to the draft Lake Ngāroto Reserve Management Plan. And I will invite Aidan and Brad to take the chair and lead us through the paper. Morena, gentlemen.
Morena tātou. Thanks for having us today. Yeah, we're pretty excited to be bringing you this part of the process of the Ngāroto Reserve Management Plan. This has been one of our babies for since 2018, when there's a council resolution to undertake this piece of work. And so to get to this stage is very exciting for us. As you recall, the Lake Ngāroto Reserve Management Plan has been prepared under Section 41 of the Reserves Act, and as a review of the 2009 current version. This plan has been drafted and prepared with staff as well as support from Anna McElroy from Exist, who's unfortunately not able to be here today. And we've also been working closely along this whole process, even from the tender process to select the supplier to support us by Oran Kapua from Ngāti Apakura and Lee Seymour from Ngāti Hikairo. So really great input from them along the way through this whole process.
So as the committee might recall, development of the plan included meeting with a focus group, which comprised of representatives from local stakeholders and partner organisations, meeting with lessees and adjoining landowners, and an initial round of public feedback as a result of putting a public notice out that there was an intention to undertake the review, and reviewing that feedback and incorporating that into the plan. So the purpose of today's item is to provide opportunity for submitters to the draft Lake Ngāroto RMP to speak to their submissions. As set out in the report, there were 27 submissions received on the draft plan. Those submissions are appended in full in Appendix 9 to the paper. There are 5 submitters that have confirmed that they would like to speak today. And so I'll hand back to you, Madam Chair, to invite those submitters to present, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for these gentlemen? Any questions for these gentlemen before we start hearing from submitters? No? Excellent. I'll invite you back once we've heard from them. So, Morena, good morning, Oran. I believe you're the first cab off the rank this morning. Lovely to have you with us today. We have your just for elected members' benefit, the tab 6.1 has the submissions from the people who we're actually hearing in person today, just for ease of reference. So obviously Oren is representing Apakura Ruranga Trust. So good morning, the floor is yours. You will have 10 minutes on account of the fact you're speaking on behalf of an organisation. At 9, if you're still going, you'll hear a ding, and that's just a warning that you've got another minute to go. Okay. So lovely to see you. The floor is yours. Oren, can I invite you to press the button there so it goes green?
There we go. Well, thank you, Madam Chair and elected members. It's wonderful to be here today and to be able to talk to our submission. Tēnā koe te whare pūhunga. Nā mihi kia koutou katoa. I just wanted to, first off, acknowledge Waipaha District Council with this bit of work, and that the privilege of being able to support the process when it came to developing up the reserve management plan, working alongside of a colleague of mine, Lee Seymour from Hikairo, and that just wanted to acknowledge that that opportunity to work with Waipaha to deliver this this document, and I'm really happy for the opportunity to be able to speak to our submission. I guess first off, just a little bit about me is that I've worked for Auckland Council in the Governance Department. I've worked there for 5 years now. And then I've worked for Chatham Island Council for 9 years. So local government is sort of part of my bread and butter, and the those issues that we have to traverse while incorporating some concerns of our communities and being able to bring them in along the process of all sort of things that are sort of front of mind for me when I'm working in this space. Being able to bring in, obviously, first off, Apakura's connection to this area, which is substantive and does have a long history here in the Waipaha area, and it's something that is certainly front of mind and trying to make sure that I do a good job. And so the pressure, we all feel it. And I'm pretty sure that, as you will all be aware, when it comes to election time, people talk. And so we want to be able to make sure when you put into a role, you give it 100%. And so just wanted to say that coming up to election time, I'm sure you'll be understanding that space very well. And good luck to you all. So I'll get back onto what I'm here to talk to is our submission. And first off, wanted to just to let you know that Apakura strongly supports the formal restoration of the traditional name Wairoto for the lake and the surrounding area. I guess when you think about it, Ngā Roto, when you break that down, Ngā means plural, Roto, lake. And we all know that there's only one lake there now. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Māori would get that wrong. We do have strong support in terms of waiata that supports the name of Wairoto, and our kaumātua have clearly affirmed that our Wairoto name is appropriate for that piece of the lake. So I guess restoring the name is a matter of accuracy. And I also believe it's a powerful act of cultural recognition, healing, and mana restoration. I'll move to the, of course, recognition of it being a wāhi tapu and cultural significance. So we certainly welcome the plan's acknowledgement of the significance and its wanting to encourage greater visibility and protection of this wāhi tapu site, including clear policy commitments to protect and manage cultural landscapes, ensure developments respect historic and spiritual values, provide interpretation and education for our community. So it absolutely has a deep historical context that I think enhances this area of Waipa. Enabling mana whenua kaitiakitanga. So we appreciate the plan's reference to kaitiakitanga and mātauranga Māori. We seek clear mechanisms that will provide mana whenua a defined role in governance and decision-making. Working at Auckland Council, we have got those sort of groups set up in various parts, and there's various parts throughout New Zealand where that happens. I'd argue that we don't need really central government to make this compulsory. I'd say our view is, and we advocate that we can do it like Auckland Council has done, and other examples around local government that have got into these sorts of arrangements with mana whenua, and the decision-making still comes back to elected members to make. So something for consideration. Cultural restoration. We fully support initiatives that enhance cultural presence and practices at the lake. We would like to see expansion of rongoā planting and pāharakeke, support for cultural harvest and gathering activities through formal agreements. And we'd also support inclusion of rangatahi and restoration mahi and conservation work. And we've done that with Waipa when we've come to doing work around mātakitaki pā, around planting down there. And so our thoughts to you today is that you've got some trusted pair of hands here with the trust, and it's not just talking, it's we can deliver as well. Biodiversity and ecological integrity. We commend the plan's ecological objectives and emphasise the need for ongoing wetlands and forest restoration, especially around endangered species. We did, and I think a benefit from working with mana whenua is that we can traverse into areas that council won't be able to. So i.e., and being specific, we applied for funding with WRA for funding to purchase their Banks Road property, which we got. And unfortunately, we couldn't get that across the line, understanding, Waipa's current fiscal conversation. So we do understand the priorities and what happens there. But it's just to say that this is another example of what working with mana whenua provides, and that our view would have been to, if we got it across the line, was to close off that part of the farm to wetlands and plant it up so that we could support the biodiversity inside the lake. Lake restoration. That's why we're keen to partner with Waipa. Okay, we're going to move right through. Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess when it comes to expanding the reserve and protecting view shafts, we have the firm view that Tauranga Miru Miru Pa is substantially important to us. So we would be, we would advocate strongly for preserving, managing the but again, you have to protect those view shafts, and that we would welcome providing any visual and cultural relationships across the landscape. I guess I'll just quickly wrap up because I would be welcome any questions that elected members would have, and that would be that Apakura Runanga appreciates the direction of the draft plan, and we affirm our commitment to working in partnership with you all. Our feedback calls for stronger mechanisms that honour mana whenua values, leadership and knowledge, and the succession, restoration of Wairoto, ecologically, culturally and spiritually depends on our shared effort and mutual respect and enduring collaboration. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa.
Kia ora, Oren. Excellent submission. Any questions of Oren in respect to the Apakura Runanga Trust's submission, in both in writing and verbally today? Claire?
Yeah, kia ora. Oren, great to have you here today. And I just wanted to acknowledge the depth and quality of the submission that Ngāti Apakura has made to this. And I think that I'm really heartened by the involvement that both Ngāti Apakura and Ngāti Kairo have had during this process. And I can see that this site is very special to you. I just also wanted to, I suppose, share that excitement about the restoration stuff that's going on in the area, you know, Matakitaki, and I'm involved in the Tai Te Tai project as you are, and I think that mana whenua have really enjoyed the opportunity to see some progress made, both for the Tai but also, you know, for the cultural sites. I wanted to check the status of the Te Ture Whai Mana or Waikato and the Waikato River Authority in relation to this site, because it's not, I know that that's where you guys applied for that funding, and it's not really mentioned very much in the reserve management plan, but it is definitely covered by the Waikato River settlement, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. So that would sort of ease the situation for some of the funding opportunities, I think, as well. And then I also have listened very carefully to the kōrero around the wāhi tapu status that you see, and totally respect your requests in how that's managed. So I'm really hoping that I'm not going to be offensive anyway, because I really want to show that I really have heard that message. However, our role is to balance those competing, the different uses of the lake. So, and my understanding is that there would be implications for access to part, if not all, of the lake surface. Yeah, and so when you've talked about the co-governance and the incorporating Mātauranga Māori and cultural values, would you be able to be a bit more explicit about what that might mean for the access to the lake itself or to the surrounds?
Oh, thank you, Member Pierre. Appreciate the question. So certainly this is just a conversation starter. There's no broad, this is what it is. Rather, perhaps a push from, of course, cheeky little push from Apakura Runanga to suggest that this is, consider this. We would welcome any opportunity to further that conversation. There's no hard lines in terms of our position. And we certainly understand that that it is a community asset, and that how that may look, we would be willing to, navigate those conversations with them, like we have done in terms of developing up this this plan before you today. We did meet with some of the users around the roto, and so we would continue to have those conversations and work with people. I think that continues to be the best way forward.
Thank you. I really admire your response, and I've taken a lot of heart from it, actually. Thank you. And I think having that conversation would be really helpful. I'd just like to suggest that something that could be considered is the use of new technology that might actually delineate the location of any koiwi remains. So that can be done now with remote sensing and is reasonably cost effective as well. And in a way, from a Western point of view, that allows that cultural evidence to be balanced by ground truthing and, I suppose some sort of physical evidence as well. And that in itself would also remove some of the uncertainties in some of the other parts of that site where we also are struggling to, undertake some work. So anyway, I'm just putting it on the table as a conversation starter as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. I have questions from Marcus and Dale Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. The submission's awesome. It was really good to read and really cool information and helped my learning. But yeah, I guess my question is similar to Claire's, is what would be the difference in changing it from a scenic reserve rather than a recreation reserve? What is the meaning behind that for you guys? But I am thinking about the other recreational lake users, what happens with that classification change in your eyes?
Well, thank you, Councillor Gower. Appreciate the question. Certainly from our point of view, we would look at can you just repeat that last bit so I'll make sure that I've got it right?
Basically,
The reserve to a scenic,
so you've said you reaffirm your strong support for reclassifying as a scenic reserve rather than a recreation reserve.
Yeah.
What does that mean in your eyes for the usage of the lake?
Yeah, so thank you for that. It's absolutely around respecting that it's a wāhi tapu, and that is the core, I guess, of where we're coming from, is that it should be a place for the community to come in, similar to like a memorial garden, like we have got. It'd be something like that where that's where our sort of thinking is for the community to come in, sit down, look at their taiao, look at the environment, look at the historical context, a place for learning, a place for families to come and to enjoy the environment. So that's why our preference would be around the scenic reserve.
Thanks for that, Aaron. Dale Marie and then Mike Pettit.
Tēnā koe te rangatira, Ngāti Apakura, nau mai hara mai ki tō whenua. Couple of things from me. I just want to say thank you for bringing the original cultural lens to our whare around this. And because it seems to be every time we do a management reserve plan, we've got to compete with the cultural, the dominant culture that's taken over our lands. So ka nui te mihi kia koe mō tō submission and giving us the view from Ngāti Apakura. And as the lonely Māori ward on this table, I commend you in the thought of co-governance, because one Māori around this table, and I know that we can make magic if we allow magic to happen. So I just want to commend you for this, bringing the cultural narrative that is the OG, and I know there's another OG one at the back there coming as well, but to put balance to what is our cultural narratives that the cultural dominant narrative that's always happening. Because I do want to pick up, I probably wouldn't be organising events in Hui on top of Picket Hill or any other urupa in this district. It's not the kind of place that I think should have certain recreational activities on top of, knowing that our tupuna are underneath there. So tēnā koe e te rangatira. Thank you for coming today and presenting such a beautiful submission. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe te whare puanga.
Thank you. Mike Pettit.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Yeah, tēnā koe Autumn. Yeah, mine's a little bit similar to what was picking up off Claire and Marcus around the status thing and around usage. And I picked up obviously what everyone's said here. And I think a Karapiro as well, which must have plenty of mate sitting down there somewhere, I'm assuming, when it got flooded, and how it's used. And it's not how I would see this like being used in the future at all, but that yacht club, which involves any kid from any race, ethnicity or whatever, I'm not sure what happens with the yacht club when the boats tip over, whether a motorboat needs to go out there or not, I'm not sure. I know in the ocean they do, but that is something. I mean, I know a kid that's done well in that place. He used to travel over from Cambridge and he's gone a long way in sailing, but it's something that's sort of passive to the environment. But you wouldn't have a yacht, or you wouldn't run go-karts over a cemetery. So I totally understand that too. So there's that sort of conflict. I'm a bit conflicted here in terms of it just being maybe more used to enjoy the environment, and the conversation around could something like that continue. So I guess what you've said is, hey, let's start with there's no no's, there's conversation and kōrero, and I think that's a good place to start. Yeah, and just trying to put that for someone like myself in context of other places that and Karapiro is an obvious example, because though I don't know the history in depth, I know definitely some stuff, some battles happened there and a lot of people died, so hence it's got its name. So yeah, so it might be a conversation for another day, but hey, great submission. The whole thing was superb, so yeah, kia ora tātou.
Thank you, Councillor.
Right. I think we can relieve you of the seat now. Thank you, Oren. Some great submission, echo sentiments shared by my colleagues, and in particular, the depth and the richness of the submission. Really appreciate you sharing that with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
What we plan to do is we'll hear the oral submissions today, then we'll have a break for morning tea, and then we'll deliberate afterwards. Excellent. Thanks. Thank you, Oren. And can I apologise for lateness, but invite Frank Kingi-Thorne and Whānau to take the hot seat and provide us with your kōrero around your submission, please. Lovely to see you. Well. Yeah, Zoe, can you grab another chair, please? Lovely, thank you. Now, before you start, can I invite you to press the button on the thing so the little light goes green and we can hear you better. So good morning, Morena, nice to see you all. The floor is yours, Frank. What will happen is that we'll give you, you've got 10 minutes to speak to your submission. We've got it in writing here. At 9 minutes, the bell will go, just to give you a bit of an idea that you've got a minute or so, give or take, left to keep talking to us. So the floor is yours.
Kia ora tātou. Tēnā koutou, te kāna kia mihi te hau kāinga, koutou e tūtou tōne i tāhi, tēnā koutou. Ko Ngāti Kairo mātou, e hara mātou I te rūnanga o Ngāti Kairo. We are three individuals who collectively practice kaitiakitanga on behalf of Ngāti Kairo in a lot of different capacities, and support and endorse the mahi o te rūnanga nui o Ngāti Kairo. My name's Frank Kingi-Thorne, Ngāti Kairo through and through, and have been involved on behalf of Ngāti Kairo in a raft of different manners for the last 25 years of my life. I'm only 47, so that's a big part of my life. And that involves environmental management, protection, historical narratives, and ensuring that we are seen, heard, and acknowledged in this space. Te Runanga Nui o Ngāti Kairo was established as an authority in 1995 pre the Tainui settlement, and our primary objective is to be acknowledged, recognised as mana whenua, tangata whenua, with mana motuhake and kaitiakitanga in this space. And that's all work that I do and Hinga Few and Lloyd Few do in this space is to uphold and maintain that. And we try to do that in the most mana empowering and enhancing way, recognising other parties, yourselves involved, included. In regards to the management plan, 100% supportive of a management plan, reserve management plan, fine with the name. Happy to support Ngāti Apakura in any kaupapa they're trying to pursue there. But as a reserve management plan, we've been involved and attempted to be involved in a handful, so we're very supportive of that. We see that we've been involved with Ngāiwi Tōpō Waipa pre-2003 when I came on board, and for the next 5 years tried to elaborate to Ngāiwi Tōpō Waipa and Waipa District Council the struggles we had with that. And so we always preferred a face-to-face leadership conversation, and thought for a long time that management plans would be the best one good tool to be involved in that. We were involved in the Mātakitaki plan quite a while ago, and unfortunately that kind of came to a grinding halt just before completion. So we were looking forward to that, and we saw it as another opportunity, as Ngāti Apakura has said, to be involved in decision-making partnerships and develops relationships. The outcomes that come out of management plans are equally as beneficial as the plan itself. We were involved also in the Manga Kāwari Cultural Values Assessment. Although it's a cultural values assessment, we worked well with Waipa District Council, Pūrekireke Marae Ngāti Apakura, to develop something we felt, although it was a cultural values assessment, reflected something that we thought a management plan should or could look like, especially with the level of engagement, relationship and partnership in there. So we were looking forward to any management plan that would come after that. Unfortunately, with the Sainsbury management plan, Sainsbury Reserve, we haven't been involved in that, and so there's some mixed experiences with management plans. And in this one, we have been involved, and as once again supportive. We definitely of the opinion that there is still some work to be done, and in all management plans, that I think where they're coming from in the first place is part of the problem. And there's no offense to anybody, but the structure behind it is an issue. And so we support Ngāti Apakura and Ngāti Hikairo to find a space, whether it's in this plan or not. Hopefully there's an opportunity to alter things as we move forward in this management plan, but in future management plans for tangata whenua to be right at the beginning of the decision making, and asking ourselves collectively if we need a plan. What does the plan look like? Is it a reserve plan? Is it a recreation plan? And what are the true desired outcomes we want as a collective? And stepping away from each party has their own agenda or their own kaupapa, that we have a collective kaupapa, and the collective kaupapa, I believe Ngāti Hikairo and Ngāti Apakura are trying to achieve with the Ngā Roto is it's in its purest form, protection, conservation of not only a lake that we all know is in very bad condition, but also the cultural space and the narratives around that space are equally in bad condition. So if a management plan from grassroots is developed in true partnership, there probably wouldn't need to be any consultation or feedback from iwi, because we've developed it in partnership with yourselves. So that's one thing to think about, if that's achievable as we complete this process post this how that might be achieved, but also what that looks like in the future for future management plans. My feedback was predominantly in regards to the plan itself, certain things missing, and recognizing, wasn't initially looking at doing a submission, but as I said before, very supportive of a plan, just as Ngāti Apakura so eloquently put it, there's a need to ensure that we are part and parcel of that. We have been the managers of Ngā Roto for 800 years. We did a pretty good job of it. Some of the conditions that it's in that now weren't happening before 1864, and we'd like to seriously put some of that into practice, not for our own benefit, but for all of our benefit and the lake's benefit. I think no matter what kind of user of the lake we are, a lake in its best condition is best for everybody. And if we can be involved in that decision-making and partnership, I think betters everybody. I've utilized the lake in many ways. I'm a paddler, so I've been there, Wakaama secondary schools there, and I've raised those issues when we were there as to whether or not kids should be in the lake. And so I'm very much aware that there are different users, but at the same, if Ngāti Kairo, Ngāti Apakura, and other tangata whenua are part of that fix it up solution, which is not in regards solely to this plan. It's the long term. It's 1,000 years of plans and processes. And if we work it out, we won't need plans and processes because we're all on the same course. So that's essentially a quick summary of not word for word, but of my feedback. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. That was very eloquent and a really rich, beautiful submission. But look, I'll open the floor for questions. And if I could encourage councillors to ask questions, that would be helpful. Claire.
Yes, thanks. Really lovely to see you here today. I recognise that you from other events along that ecological corridor, Taia to Taia. So wonderful that you're here. I hear what you're saying, and I really hope it's not going to take 1,000 years to set the lake on a really healthy and I suppose, life-giving pathway. But I acknowledge your wonderful submission as well with that cultural lens. What I wanted to talk about actually was the Sainsbury Road Reserve. So that is a new reserve. It's not one that's had established practices. So I'm really sorry that you feel you've missed out. There is a planting event this Saturday. You're aware of that? Oh, great. So it'd be wonderful if some of you could be there. Thanks. But really appreciate you coming along and look forward to that future relationship working together constructively for these outcomes.
Thanks, Claire. Lou.
Thank you very much. I was very, very impressed with your article. Actually, I'm a Puhui, born and bred, and I guess the 5th or 6th generation. So I absolutely love reading about the history of the area. Just a couple of little things that I'd like to ask. You actually are asking to have some discussions with Ngāti Apakura over the changing of the name. And I just wanted to develop that a little bit because Ngāti Apakura are quite strong about having Wairoto, and you are proposing a number of issues here, that you're talking about. And I felt that this is something that we need to be aware of when we're taking the considerations that we're dealing with. So the changing of a name is a very big thing, and it has a lot of emphasis to us as well as to your tribes and your peoples. And I think that that's something that should be very, very, very carefully considered. The other thing was just to change your feeling on the change to scenic, from a scenic reserve, from a recreational reserve. Would that exclude any of the recreational things in that?
Okay, was the first one a question? Okay, all right, cool. So in regards to conversations with Ngāti Apakura, we are currently we've been having wānanga with Ngāti Apakura for a while. And so I think one of the points of the plan in regards to the feedback to the plan was enabling us to collectively have those conversations to ensure that we're happy. There's no contest, there's no competition. It is just ensuring that we as a collective are prepared to take on the collective responsibility of working together with other agencies. So that's an ongoing conversation. And I can't give you an answer until we've finished our wana, and wana going to go for a while. And in regards to the second one, which I've now forgotten, sorry.
That was just simply about changing the reserve. to
Okay,
a
cool.
Yep.
Fully understand and appreciate the Ngāti Apakura approach. As an individual, I don't have any mana and say in that, but I certainly understand the approach. Although I understand and utilization of lakes, when it came to Mangakawari, I was very pro to closing the lake down, and for protection mechanism in order for it to get it in its state. So I am that kind of approach, but I'm an individual. I'm not a spokesperson for anybody, and I still feel that Ngā Roto, although it is a wāhi motu, and there are aspects to that, as there is a Mangakawari, it equally is, as of 1864, still had a cultural and everyday social usage as well. And people were still accessing the lake even after confiscations, as they were in Mangakawari as well, for harvesting and a raft of different things. So as we do in our whole lives, we continue to balance our tapu and everyday practices. So that's one thing that we would like to be able to integrate into any plans, is what does that look like? Not a black or white type approach, but a very interactive, changing, adaptable approach to ensure that there's protection for everybody.
Thank you very much for a very competent answer.
Kia ora, thank you for that. Any other questions for Frank at all? Mike?
Through the mayor, more of an acknowledgement. At the front end of this, before the submission started, just all the work that has been done over many, many years on this lake, not just by Brad and Sally, but many people before them and all our staff, and really disappointed to see that trying to make the best effort has actually not got us anywhere. So if anything else, it shows us that what we need to do in the future needs to be different. The catchment needs to be bigger if we're actually going to really protect this thing. So it is going to take everyone in that area also being on board. So I think hopefully we're up for it.
Thank you, Mike. Well, thank you, Frank and whānau. I was going to invite Tipene to just say a few words.
Ka tira tēnā tātou. Ka mōhio tātou ka whae te tāne tā te wahine tono. No reiri tono mai a Daramaru me tū katika ki te mihi atu ki a tātou ngā mana whenua o te whaitua. No reiri, kei wehe atu koutou, kei te haere tonu mai a Gareth me tū I tēnei wā ki te mihi atu. Kia koutou ngā mana whenua o Ngāti Apakura o Ngāti Hae I kaira ko tēnei, te ringa mau e mihi atu ana ki te ringa matau. Engari tēnā ka mihi atu. I te nuinga o te wā, ka haere mai mātou mo te nawe anake I te mea nunu I rawa ngā mahi whakapē I kei mui a tātou katoa. Engari ko haere mai koutou ki te tautoko kamihi. I te mea ka whāngai atu I te mahi a te kaunihira a te hapori mā tātou tiwi Māori. Turi no kia koe kia kei te haere, kei te mōhio, kei te haere tonu mai koe, no te pito o te ao tāua, no tokoroa, no reira nei rā te mihi atu kia koe o te rā kia koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou, mai te I raru I te maru o te manukura, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora.
Thank you, Tipene. Well, thank you, Frank and whānau. Wonderful to, as I say, have you in the house with us today, and for sharing, as I say, your very rich submission. I really appreciated it. So, without further ado, I shall invite you to vacate the chair, and we shall invite the next submitter to share their thinking with us, and that person is Jeffrey Boxall. Now, Jeff, as an individual, you'll have 5 minutes, and you know the drill in terms of pressing the button. You're a frequent flyer, so you know how this goes. Nice to see you. You're very dapper too. Very well dressed this morning. You've turned it off. Yeah, it has to be green. Yeah,
No, don't.
excellent.
Morning,
So-
Jeffrey.
Green light is go.
So Jeff, the Claire will ding the bell at 4 minutes to give you a warning that you've still got a minute to go. But the floor is yours. We have your written submission as well.
Thank you very much.
Kia ora.
Now, on reading your report on Lake Naroto, I was particularly interested in the geological reports. There's one fundamental matter that none mention, that is that all lakes are temporary. That in time, all of them will silt up. That is the nature of lakes. It was something I was taught at school at the age of 11 and 12, and one hopes that basic geology is still being taught, even if some, such as your report writer, seem to have been asleep during the lesson. The next thing I will say will no doubt bring a great deal of hissing, followed by weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. But it's totally relevant to what I have to say. On 24 February this year, I had the need to meet someone in Kiki and deliver some items, and then in the afternoon, meet the same person and collect the said items. Being a beautiful day, I thought I'd walk. I deliberately chose to go up from Oliver Street to Lion Street via Whitmore and back at the time that the Kiki school was having its children arrive and then in the afternoon leave school. In the time I walked to Lion Street and back, and that is the full length from the school to the T-junction, I observed on the way up the cycle path was used by one adult and one child. On the return journey, I saw the adult on the path, albeit he had originally ridden on the road. In the afternoon, going from Oliver to Lion via Whitmore, I saw one adult and two children, one being the ones that I'd seen in the morning, but none on my return journey. I did see a child in Kiki school uniform on the cycle path in Rolleston by the junction of Grey Street, but the child had parked his bike and was sitting on the cycle path. And as I'd not seen him on Whitmore, one must assume that he'd used the back streets to get there. Ratepayers were told the cycle path was for children going to school. The costs were given as 4.8 million from taxpayers and 2.8 from ratepayers. Items in the press showed that the taxpayers' cost had increased to 5.64 million. So it is possible the ratepayers' cost had a similar but unpublished increase. Ratepayer costs would also be subject to interest, as WDC has admitted. That is how it's managing to avoid bankruptcy. Even at a generous 4% per annum, that is $9.6 thousand per annum in interest. All that without the ongoing cost of mowing the median strips, the cul-de-sac grassed areas, plus the weeding of the roundabouts and the cost of the lights of the ski jumps which have been installed. The reason I mention the above is that WDC has, in the very recent past, spent $6.4 million at least on a project for two children to go to school, escorted each time by an adult. My concern is that it will do exactly the same with Lake Naroto and do so by borrowing even more money in order to do it. There are some simple things that can be done to improve water quality, such as using barley straw in the feeder streams, see appendix, and I'll pass the papers to the chair. But any major action should not be undertaken until such time as WDC has no debt, or at least very little debt, and that for essential services. You are the council. You need to take and maintain control of what WDC is doing and not allow the bureaucracy provide you with nice to have projects complete with glossy brochures that they do not have to pay for. It is ratepayers' money that will be spent, and that needs to be at the forefront of your minds when considering what is to be done with the lake. Ratepayers' money, not yours. I would hasten to add that I am fully aware of the spiritual and other concerns of the local Māori. And in fact, being English, I am only, and anyone who knows my background and my hobbies will know that I'm extremely concerned with that sort of thing. So I'm fully sympathetic with them. But the local Māori perhaps can put in more effort to help, perhaps even with voluntary work, though I would happen to add there that they need to be concerned about the bureaucracy, because we've had the example of the Memorial Park where the seats there are being replaced unnecessarily and they have been repaired on a voluntary basis at no cost to the council. And yet the bureaucrats are still insistent on spending money on the seats that are now no longer required. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jeff, any questions for Jeff in respect of his submission? Claire?
Yes, thank you, Jeff. I was interested in your suggestion about the barley straw.
Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate that suggestion. Do you know if it's been used in New Zealand in any large scale or anything?
I'm not aware of it being used in New Zealand. I mentioned this once before when we were dealing with the issue of the Memorial Park and the clarity of the water there. I have mentioned it. The references that I have given are actually either from Europe or from Canada or America. So it is being used overseas. It's quite simple to use. It's not a perfect solution. And if you read the appendix, which I will give you, it actually gives examples of what it can and cannot do.
Okay, no, that'll be really helpful.
Yeah, but I would also like to go back to what the Maori presenter, the first one who I was talking with, that the fact that Lake Naroto actually means more than one lake. Where are the other lakes gone? It's because the lake's silt up. That is the nature of the thing. We can preserve the lake to a degree, but you'll never actually prevent it from silting up.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other questions for Jeff before we let him get on with his day? No, look, thank you, Jeff, for sharing your recount and your views with us on a variety of topics. And in respect of the barley straw addition, it's an interesting suggestion and certainly something we might look at exploring. So thank you for that.
There are the,
If you could leave that, that would be great.
I will.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cheers, Jeff. Now could I invite our next submitter, Gareth Seymour, to the chair. Morena, nice to see you, Gareth. You've been here watching how this has gone, so you'll get the drill. The blue light, the green light has to be on for us to hear your words of wisdom. You will have 5 minutes. The bell will ring at 4, and may have some questions for you afterwards. But the floor is yours. We have your written submission also. So kia ora, thank you, and look forward to hearing.
Kia ora, I've provided some additional information today as well.
When the green comes up.
It has to be green.
That's
Yep,
it. You've
perfect.
got it.
See the green, got the green light.
Yeah, well done.
Morena tātou. Morena tātou. E te kaunihera, tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou e whai wānei au I tēnei ata. Just like to acknowledge that Ōtorohanga Council and Hauraki Council, we're here with Hinga and Frank, so we've got a lot of councils represented today. I wanted to present the sorts of criteria that would be needed for a change of a place name. And I've written 3 of them down, but I think the most important one is about the evidence and having a robust evidence base to back up any proposed name change. I think that that level of robustness, if that's a word, would, I think of some of our scholars like Peiti Hurinui, Rauriti Te Huia, Henare Tūwhāngai, Te Auwe Davis, some of the scholars in our names in Aotearoa and Waikato, Maniapoto Tainui Waka, and I think that level, if there's evidence for a change to the name of Ngaroto Ngāi Kōrero, then I think that we could have a conversation there. But I think that was the evidence base is one of the most important criteria, as well as the general iwi consensus. So I've delved into the evidence. The waiata that's referenced in the evidence that I think Apakura and Hikairo, our whānau, refer to, it doesn't actually say where Wairoto is. And Wairoto might actually be a name of a person, because Wairoto is in our whakapapa. We've got a few kazus called Wairoto. So I'm a bit worried that while Wairoto is referenced in Moteatea and in an old song, it doesn't actually say where Wairoto is. And then I'll turn to the documentary evidence provided by Green and Lowe, which are referenced in the management plan. They referred to some 1860s and maybe 1870s documentation. They referred to 6 references. 5 of those references referred to the lake, to Lake Ngaroto. One of the references refers to the general area. So 5 out of 6 sources from the 1800s, from the mid-1800s, refer to that lake being called Ngaroto. So for me, that's what the evidence base is telling us. The question about support by local iwi, I mean, as a member of Ngāti Kairo, this isn't something that's come to our people. And so the notion that it is supported by iwi, it would need to go to our iwi to really, for us to be able to say, okay, we tautoko this. In terms of how long has this discussion been around, the earliest documentary evidence that's been presented is from 2024. And that was a reference, low and green reference, a conversation with one Kaumatua who proposed the name Wairoto and Wairotuti. So for me, that's a really sort of modern reference, and it doesn't meet that criteria of being a historic reference. The Hinga Kaka Management Plan, the latest version in 2002, which obviously documents a lot of that history and a lot of the wawata of Ngāti Apakura and local people, it makes no reference to Wairoto. So again, that for me is evidence that this is a brand new kaupapa and it hasn't got that historic depth of kōrero. So in that reference, they talk about Wairoto and Wairotuti. Sorry, there's a reference to Ngaroto and Ngarotuti. It's actually based on Māori naming practice. And so that tells me that Ngaroto and Ngarotuti have been around for a long time, which means sort of big Ngaroto and little Ngaroto. And so finally, the notion of needing to wānanga, and I acknowledge Apakura, and Apakura's my whakapapa, when they presented to the tribunal, they actually presented the Hikairo whakapapa. So we're actually one people, in my point of view. I don't think we need to wānanga this kaupapa further because it's been discussed for more than a year. That's enough time for the people to, without an evidence base, I don't see the need or the purpose of having ongoing wānanga, because what are we going to wānanga? If I'm going to attend a wānanga, really needs to have some sort of kiko and body behind it. And from what I see and the information that I've delved into, that criteria of having robust evidence for this name change doesn't exist. So I prefer that me and my whānau in Hikairo and Apakura, let's wānanga something else, because unless you can bring a case to the table, we really need to honour and maintain the name of Ngaroto, because it was handed down from our tūpuna. Reira tēnā tātou.
Kia ora. Yeah, interesting perspective, and kind of it's going to be a little bit of a conundrum, I guess, for us, but that's for later in the day. But thank you, Gareth. Questions for him in respect to his submission? Sorry, Del Marie, I have you here.
Tēnā koe e te rangatira, tēnā koe nā te Hikairo. Taku pātai ki a rātou, te iwira. Ko wai te māngai. Ko wai te māngai I kōrero I a mātou. Kua kōrero mātou ki a Liz and ko rātou I whakamana iaia I roto ki tēnei kōrero rero I tēnei prani. Ai, e hara te raru, ko koutou te mana, engari ko wai mātou ka kōrero kia koutou, ko wai atu.
I'm a member of the Runanga o Ngāti Hikairo. I'm not representing the Runanga today, but I'd be happy to take this kōrero back to the Runanga as well. And so I present as an individual. And so where does the mana whakahaere and the mana of the kōrero lie? And my submission today is that my default position is to go back to the kōrero that our tūpuna have left us. And we're all on this learning journey. All of us are cousins, all of the people that we're talking about today. And my experience of being sort of an amateur researcher / almost professional researcher is that I think the take that's on the table today is with the evidence, and that's the decision that we need to make, and that council has the opportunity to make based on that robust evidence.
Thanks, Gareth. Lou, question for our submission.
Thank you, Gareth. It's an interesting conundrum that we are dealing with here, and thank you for your opinion. We've already discussed with previous submitters that there is a little bit of dissent or, some other thoughts to being governed here. So I believe that from a council point of view, we should allow you the time to be able to discuss this openly amongst yourselves and come to a collective decision. I think it's beyond us to actually try and implement this at this point in time. As I say, we're trying to do what we're calling a draft reserve management plan, and it will remain to be nā roto until such time as you discuss this openly and come to a decision. Would you agree with that perspective?
Gee, it's a hard one. I think that our time is precious as Ngāti Hikairo and Ngāti Apakura, and there's so many things that are on our plate, and I personally am reluctant to put my time and energy into something that I think is a kind of a dead end kaupapa. But if Hikairo and Apakura want to, like our whānau want to continue to wānanga, that's their prerogative. I just personally, my recommendation is that we can reach a dead end at this point, because unless these criteria are met, like a Rariti Te Huia or a Te Auwea Davis comes to light, that supports this, the argument. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Gareth. I sort of don't know where to kind of go with this, but look, it's really, it's quite brave, I guess, to speak individually, and what apparently in the face of going against what Te Kairo are telling us. So look, I really want to acknowledge that, and your commitment to evidence-based decision making. I think it's critical. It's where we all should rest. So thank you for that. There being no further questions for Gareth, I will let you get on your way for the day.
Well done.
And take our thanks with you for your time, which, as you've said, is precious. Non-renewable, my husband told me the other day. So there you go. It's on your page. So kia ora, thank you. Now, our next submitter is Gordon Wallace. Now, Gordon is speaking on behalf of the Waikato Thames Coromandel Youth Sailing Trust. So, Gordon, you will have 10 minutes. The bell will ring at 9 to let you know that, that you've got another minute to go. And you've seen the drill. I was going to say, it's not apples for the teacher.
This is your present.
Yeah.
This is Lake Narota
Yeah.
today.
Mm.
I'd like to have one. Unfortunately.
We'll just leave it there, and we'll have a look at it when we have our deliberations. But Gordon, can I invite you to take the seat? As I said, you'll have 10 minutes. The bell will ring at 9. Just to advise you that you have a minute to go, and there may be some questions from the councillors in respect of your submission. And my apologies for keeping you waiting. Can I invite you to press the button so the little green light goes on the microphone so we can all hear you well? Perfect. The floor is yours.
So I'm going to take my submission has been read. I'm extremely dyslexic. I have trouble even reading my own writing. And hopefully I can keep it together here. The good thing is that the education system is much better than when I went to school. And my daughter is the same. And she is now Dr. Irene Wallace, the world's renowned geothermal driller, sort of thing. So I wasn't afforded that thing at school. I failed everything. So, but anyhow, at the beginning there, you'll see that the impact of the lake, what it is now on sailing, that I did this from a division, I guess, for the region, Waikato Thames Yachting Coromandel Youth Development Trust, that we were employing a professional coach, and we were putting through about 1,500 engagements at Naroto a year. Now, this included schools. Patarangi School 7 and 8s did a full learn to sail course for personal development. Schools right through all here, classes going down there with, again, for the same thing, learning, outdoor learning. And it also included the Kakakaha program with Yachting New Zealand, where it STEMS program and education. It's all finished. Right? Sailability Waikato, which the Two-Metered Lions have disabled people there sailing fortnightly on a Wednesday, finished. Naroto Sailing Club, all our junior and centreboard sailing is finished. The only sailing now is that we have went to Dunedin and brought back 3 race trail yachts, and to run programs that you've probably got to be about 16 to 17 to be able to sail in these boats. They're quite physical, and to do programs in those. And that's all indicated, all been implicated by the condition of the lake. Okay, so it's having a huge impact on sailing. But if we look at the wider community are becoming more knowledgeable about, or of an opinion that the lake is toxic. Don't go there. Right. If you look at the draft Naroto Reserve Management Plan, and it says here, protected and the Waiapu, the life-sustaining capacity of Lake Naroto brought back to life and protected, and the Waitapu status acknowledged, so that the Waikato and Waipa rivers and indigenous species, mana whenua, and communities can flourish. You can see why I can't read, okay? And in the first bullet, the health and well-being of the lake is restored. Nice words, can't happen, won't happen under the current status we've got. Okay, and thus you'll see that if you look on the side of your bottles that you take home, you'll see that the nutrient value of that lake is in the sediment. And there's no way of cleaning that lake up. It will keep pouring algae into that lake to where it's long dead. Okay. The Waikato Regional Council have no intention of doing anything in the immediate about the lake. Okay, it's in their 80-year plan. So take those words out. Okay, don't put something in the plan that you have no positive intention of doing. Okay. So the only fix for that lake is to get the nutrients out of the lake from for generations of bush, and nutrients come from bush, yeah, as well, but like pre-farming, and 100 years of agriculture is the only fix. Right? Lab results, you've got them there. We'll show you what the nutrients in there. I'll give you the samples. The other exacerbating factor is the carp and the rudd that are in the lake. Their diet, now that they've eaten up all the oxygen weed that was around the lake, pre my time at the lake, The yacht club used to go out there, and I think the council even did, of reducing the weed. That kept the lake alive. But the carp and the rudd have eaten it right out, so now they stir up the bottom and live on the algae from within the lake. We noted, sorry, we'll go back. Nick Ling of Waikato University is working on another waterway where getting rid of the fish is having an impact on the water quality, right? We noted after the big event when I don't know how many hundreds of fish died there about 3 years ago, the lake all of a sudden went clean. Not recognised by Waikato, oh, that was incidental. But the lake went, you could see the bottom of the lake. So these fish are in there, churning it up, making it cloudy, and you watch your sample that I put together in a couple of days after now I tipped over in the Land Cruiser, it'll come clean. So why is our submission based on on iwi's Waitapu status of Lake Naroto? About 4 years ago, I attended a consultation meeting with iwi at the race course, and council were presenting, talking about other issues that they had, and we were talking about putting the container storage facility down there. While I was sitting there, the lady sitting next to me pulled out her iPad or laptop and showed me photos of the battle of the crosses from the Battle of the Somme. And you know, you can't talk. She said, this is why it's important to us. Okay, so I thought then that the big battle was down there at Naroto and everybody finished in there. And I had believed over my sailing that there was a big battle down there. Most of the community believed that there was a big battle down there. The reality is that the battle was up on Naroto Road and looked to go south. So I've put in there a link. If you're confused like I was about where the battle was, have a look at that. Okay, it's clear. And there's books. I had a chat to Buck Mackey when called on, had a coffee with Buck and Gale. And looking out from their house, there was Naroto. He showed me where the lake used to be. Probably 2 hours walk from where the lake used to be up to where the battle was. It was in bush. Right? I couldn't do it in 2 hours now, but I'm getting old and fat. Okay. So it is by deception. Why was this person telling me that Lake Naroto was a burial ground like on the battle, from a battle like on the Somme? Then the meeting went on and council presented a case for stabilising the walkway from the rowing club going around there with it gets like this, and even I'm apprehensive about walking on it, sort of thing, right? And they wanted to put piles into the lake to put a crossbar and stabilise it. You can't do that. It's tapu. It's sensitive to us. It's culturally insensitive. Find another way. You know, so they're using this method of control to control what's happening, what didn't happen. So my view is that we look at it and ideally iwi shift its focus from the claim that the lake was of spiritual significance through death, and it never was. They never buried people into the food gathering area, and cleaning up and focus on remedying a destroyed significant food gathering area. I'm happy with that.
Oh, thank you, Gordon. Any questions of Gordon in respect to his submission? Questions, please. Claire.
Thank you, Gordon. I appreciate you making the submission and the statements that you're making. Firstly, about the location of the battle site. Pohingakaka, you say that there's a link in your submission, but I can't find it. I was interested to know the research or the authority that you're quoting. So perhaps it's in your paper copy?
Yeah. And the narrator in that held up a book on history, and he said he got all his information from that book, right? The link is here. I can leave this with somebody, and if anyone else has difficulty finding that link, YouTube. The other one is Buck found a book at, or has a book at Parongia Historic Museum.
Oh, right.
And Buck gave it to me. I read it. I should have photocopied it. And
You shouldn't have.
and I gave it back, and I went down the other day, and Buck is there Friday, I think, or something, sort of thing, right? It's there, but it is well documented. And when you think about it, that I don't know whether you have ever been on at Inverness, at Culloden, and the Scots were on a hiding to nothing because they were coming from downhill through a swamp and up to meet the English. And you know, the Jacobites should have thought about it. The Maori thought about it. They knew they were outnumbered. So they got up onto the high ground, not down in Naroto, where all the other old people and children and that sort of thing. They got up on the higher ground and met them above them. You know, you would have lost if they were down there, right? And got them away from their food gathering area. So let's you know, how did 4,000 beat 10,000? Being strategically smart.
Thanks for that.
Thanks, Gordon. Thank you, Gordon. Any other questions from, questions, of course, not statements of fact, please. Lou and then Delmarie.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. I know how hard it was for you today to sit here in that room, okay? So I congratulate you on that. Well done, old fella. You did well there. So I don't agree with what you're saying, is that there is known fact that there are tahanga in the lake that was thrown in, okay, from raids that came up. So there are valuable items that were left there over time. Uranuku is one of those that we actually represent here in our local area that was actually placed for safekeeping in the lake. So it is something we do. The other thing that remembering that we are having a reserve management plan, and that's the reserve around the lake. We as a council do not control the lake. You know that well. So we are actually, that's Waikato, that's a regional council. And unfortunately, we cannot have a lot of input other than our representatives on the Waikato Authority. So I would, you know, relate to that. So I thank you very much for what you've done. I'm going to say it takes a lot of courage to sit up there and make statements like that, but well done. And pass on to Dale.
Kia ora. You have a historian background? Are you a historian?
No.
Okay. So what is your knowledge of Mōtiatia prior to that book being written? What is your knowledge of Mōtiatia before that book was written?
What's my tieti?
What is Mōtiatia? Mōtiatia is our validated rhetoric, like a book, but it is our validated stories prior to a pen and a paper coming here that we have taken from the 1800s, and I still sing those stories today about my tupuna that are buried in that lake, and I know where they are. So I'm a little bit puzzled that you come here and you tell me about where our buried are when you've only listened to one woman and you can't tell me who the book of source was. But I'm gratefully going to look for that source, because a lot of what we sing about and talk about, these have been carried over 26 generations. And I know where my tupuna are buried in that lake and around the lake too, from when it got drained.
Did I will ask a question, a practical one. The lake is.
Gordon, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. It's not actually, we get to ask you the questions. I'm
Okay.
sorry. So we've established the question there was that you're a historian and you've given us the source of that you're relying on, and Dale Marie is going to investigate that. So thank you for drawing that to our attention.
I'll make the comment that the lake is not the lake. Did that Tonga thing come out of the lake per se where it is now? Or did it come from farmland where the lake used to be?
Thanks, Gordon. Any other questions for Gordon, please, before we bring this portion of our day to a conclusion? No? Wonderful. Look, thank you very much for your time, Gordon. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we shall break now. I think that's what it says on my little my thing, for morning tea for, say, 15 minutes. So how about we come back at 10:10?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Well, kia ora, welcome back. And thank you to the submitters, both in writing and those presenting today orally. We'll now move into a deliberation session, and I propose, barring there being any crazy objections, that we have general, that we refer to Appendix 8, which is where the submissions are listed and broken down with recommended responses. I guess in terms of the larger issues, from what I heard, the compelling issue sort of sits around the naming, the future of the name change, if we could call it that, and that's embodied in one of the responses, or a number of the responses in the proposed response schedule there. So it will be captured by virtue of going through those pages. So look, what I propose we do is we just open up the first page, and on the assumption that you're comfortable with what's the staff recommendation and rationale for that is in terms of the submissions, we'll move on, because I don't think it's a good use of everybody's time to sort of wax lyrical over bits that we're all in agreement on. But if there's something, we'll deal with them page at a time. So if there's something on the first page, and I think Claire has something right off the bat, then stick your hand up and we can talk about it. Does that seem a sensible way forward? Because I think that the substantive issues in respect of the plan and the submissions we heard will be captured in this this document. So page 1 on page 155 of Appendix 8. Claire.
Thanks, Miss Susan. Yes, it's the last one from the Te Pāhu Ratepayers and the Taronga Ward Committee about no mention of recreational use being explicit in the vision. And the staff response is that simply having communities can flourish is sufficient. Yeah, so I'd just like to explore that, because I actually thought that the recreation and what they've got there is encouraging recreational activity and healthy living, uniting people, yeah, was reasonable. Yeah, that's all. I'm a bit worried that if you don't have recreational use there, I mean, people can flourish just by having passive enjoyment of, you know, a lake. Yeah. And a lot of the submissions I've heard is that it's important to safeguard that recreational, access.
Thanks. Through the chair. I'm just wondering if before we addressed your question there, councillor, whether it would be helpful for Aidan to provide a bit of a clarity on what is scenic reserve and recreational reserve, because we heard about that in our submissions this morning.
That's great.
So if that's helpful.
Good idea. Yeah, great idea.
I'm going to throw Aidan under the bus for this one. So.
I'll do my best. So the plan does set out at page 39 in the, I think it is, of the plan itself. I don't know what it is on your agenda, but how a scenic reserve is defined and part of the intention around the reclassification of it. So the Reserves Act sets out broad categories for how reserves can be classified. The intention around reclassifying Lake Naroto Recreation Reserve to a scenic reserve is to capture more or more prominently identify what we understand to be some of the real attributes associated with that reserve, being a place of natural beauty, a place for people to go in and experience this natural feature, and part of the rationale is also to put greater priority around the restoration efforts in terms of restoring that natural beauty around it. Recreation reserve, obviously there's recreational attributes to that reserve that are highly valued, but recreational reserve also applies to things like your sports grounds and your playgrounds and things like that, which doesn't, which, you know, there's obviously that recreational, there's different aspects of recreation that this lake is valued for, but perhaps doesn't fully or properly sit in that overall wider category. So changing the classification from recreation to scenic doesn't prohibit or restrict in its own right the ability for recreational activities to occur there. Recreation is captured in what Objective 4 of the Reserve Management Plan as being a factor to have out there. So that's not intended to be lost. It's one of the key objectives that the plan promotes. Going back to your point, Claire, about the vision, whether the vision accurately captures that. So staff's view is that whole idea of people being able to flourish is captured in their ability to recreate, to enjoy the space as recreation. Over to you whether that captures it fully or whether you'd want to see that.
Yeah, that's really helpful, really helpful. Yeah, to understand the difference, and it's really weighting and focus as opposed to prohibition. So does that change your thinking at all, Claire, around that?
It was really useful to point me into the direction of what the scenic reserves actually provide, that status provides for, because I've been able to find it. It's on page 107 of our agenda. And the first purpose is protecting and preserving for the benefit, enjoyment and use of the public. Yeah, so that has been helpful. And I think based on that, yeah, I'm comfortable with the staff wording. Thank you.
Really helpful. Thank you. Just getting back to my page here. So it was 155 we were back on now. So can I take it, given there's silence in the room, that everybody is comfortable with the recommendations and the rationale given for those recommendations in response to that page? Claire's comfortable now that communities can flourish is sufficient, and the understanding of the differences between recreational and scenic reserves. So let's flick over the page then, page 156. Got the 3 submissions there, or submission points there. No issue with those. That's good. The next one then on page 157. Obviously, we heard from Mr. Boxall in respect of the straw, and I'm pleased to see that that suggestion could be can be explored by council and regional council, private landowners under that policy framework. So that's cool. Nobody chucking their arms in the air. Next page then, page 158. Dr. Edgington and Craig Green's submissions. Nope. Great. And the next page then, 159. Again, swathe from Craig Green there and Sally Whitaker and the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board. And then the next page, this is where the issues first start being raised in respect to the naming. So page 160. Claire.
Yes, thanks. 2 points on that. Firstly, I enjoyed hearing Gareth Seymour's point of view. I do feel it's still not council's position to make a decision on it, and that it should actually be given back to iwi. So I support the staff position on that. Just like to point out a minor typo on the 3rd to last line. The sentence starts, the proposed changes. It's got changed. That's all. On that last line, 3rd to last line on the staff comments. Can you see it? Yep, cool.
Any other discussion and points of view here? Roger.
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I'd just like to endorse Claire's comments there on name change, and I question whether we have actually the authority to make a name change. The Land Information New Zealand is responsible for name changes, and the 3 criteria that are in that information from Land Information is that information and evidence supporting the proposed name change, including its connection to the place of feature and evidence of consultation with relevant stakeholders such as Mana Whenua and local council. So I would support it actually being left to a wānanga between iwi as to any suggestion of a name change.
Great, cool. Thank you for sharing your views there, Roger. Anybody else wish to be heard, express a strong view either way? And this it seems a sensible way forward, and obviously acknowledging the very clear points of view that one submitter had around the need for evidence-based. I agree. I think this is a matter for respective iwi Mana Whenua groupings to consider and come to an agreement on. That being the case, we're comfortable then with the recommendations that have been proposed and on that page. Moving on then to the next page, 161. Claire?
Thanks. Just under Jeffrey Boxall's, in the comments, the last paragraph, it mentions Apakura Runanga Trust, but Runanga is incorrectly spelt.
What page are you on, Claire?
Oh.
Sorry, I'm all over the place now. Where are you?
162.
Oh,
The next page. Yeah.
Which,
I was on 161.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, well, that was the one that had the change.
Okay,
change.
they're all about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was Gareth. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So Jeff is the first one on page 162. Yeah. And so the Runanga is spelt incorrectly there. His contention is that the contribution should be made by iwi. I was wondering whether or not we could mention there about this lake is covered by the Waikato River Authority, and so that is actually seen as a way that iwi do.
That's
I mean, I raised this with Brad just before the meeting, that there isn't much mention of the status of Lake Noroto as part of the Waikato River catchment, and so it is covered by the Waikato River Settlement Act, and therefore the Waikato River Authority and Tuture Waimana. And so, you know, there are funding streams available through that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a sensible addition when you bear in mind that the contention he's making. I think it's a very appropriate thing to include. So can we leave it for you to find the appropriate wording to add in there?
And then I do have another point on the next one down, Gordon Wallace, in that the staff recommendation is absolutely, Mana Whenua have confirmed their position that the lake and surrounding area are a wahitapu site. I did raise the question with Oren about whether or not some new technology could be used that's non-invasive. You know, it's remote sensing, it can identify hard objects in soft soils, and is used for archaeological and cultural sites. And I'm wondering if that an exercise that might be helpful in at least opening up some areas of the lake reserve for more intensive use than otherwise might be possible. I thought it'd be good just to have a conversation with those guys about how to approach it. And because Waikato University do have a particular centre for AI use, which would be covered by this kind of technology, whether or not we could explore an opportunity there to see if some work could be done, because it also helps us with our maintenance around the lake, because it would give some surety whether or not we would be violating any remains or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's necessarily something you'd want to put in a response though, a recommendation, or have I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have with staff,
Yes.
but I don't know that it would necessarily sit comfortably from my perspective, and I could be wrong, by all means tell me.
Fine, I'm just putting it on the table. I didn't want it to be lost. I thought Oren Kapua did seem to be open to it, and it would actually help us out in a number of areas, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, and you had no other changes and discussion points there? Okay, so we're fine with that page. Moving on then to page 163. There's the rowing club, yep. Yes,
Just like,
indeedy.
I'd just like, having read the rowing clubs, the 5 rowing club submission, the point that they wanted to have retail food there arises some concern that they'd like to have when they're having events, see having something there like that. And it all sort of goes against the idea of enabling commercialisation, which Ngāti Apakura Trust were quite against. So it's something that there is a conflict there if we develop that. So whether we actually allow that to happen, coffee carts, etc., something to be just thought about.
Claire.
Yeah, just responding to what Lou's talking about. Because Liz and I had a chat about this early on in the piece, that if it's provided for in the plan, it's an opportunity actually for mana whenua to consider if they want to have, I suppose, a heightened presence there, a physical presence that could incorporate like a cafe or something. Like we weren't really thinking total commercial, but more just enabling, a wider range of activities. I'm not aware of anyone that's, wants to have a coffee cart down there, but it's just, if we don't have it in the plan, you can't do it. But if it's mentioned, there's an avenue in the future, that's all.
Only concern was we opened the door a little bit and a whole lot come in, so.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree on that too, and it takes away the opportunity for any clubs down there to do any fundraising, like making foods and things like that.
So are we confident that and comfortable then with the recommended, the response there to Ngāti Apakura? There's a recommend no change. Are we comfortable with that? That council will consider mana whenua views on future use and development proposals and impacts of the proposed activities on reserve values, and only grant concessions that are compatible with scenic reserve classification and the reserve's values. Yeah. Mike, you're not looking fully convinced.
Hey, through the mayor, I'm definitely not fully convinced. Yeah. No, I'm actually more with Claire here. That doesn't mean you have to do something. It opens up an opportunity. That's all it's saying. It's still got to go through a whole bunch of hoops to get anywhere. But the world doesn't stop. And if you do your food thing, well, people have got to eat. People have got to eat. And it's going to be a recreational, scenic, or whatever reserve. There's opportunities there for mana whenua or for someone else to actually fit this into what gets developed up and fit it into that. It could be because you want to get people out there, and you get people on bikes and all sorts of things if they got destination places. A lot of people don't go to Karapiro to jump in the water. They go out there because they'll cycle with a whānau or family or whatever, and they'll go for a coffee or slide down a slide or whatever. But people go to these places for a whole bunch of reasons, but food crosses boundaries of every culture. And not everyone packs a picnic. So I'm actually more here with Claire. I've just given the opportunity rather than just stymieing this from the outset.
Brad, thinking.
I think if I can try and provide a little bit of clarity, I think Claire and Mike, I think you're on the same page as us as staff here, that it enables an opportunity. Obviously, mana whenua would be involved in the concession process with us, similar to what we do at Maungatautari now. You know, if activities happen on that have some benefit, commercial benefit, both the trust and Ngāti Kurukeka Kura are part of that conversation. So it'd be quite similar to that. So yeah, if that helps.
Does that give you both a bit more comfort? Yeah. Okay, cool. Excellent. So moving on then to the next page, on page 164. No proposed changes. No, nothing there. And then 165. Cool, nothing. Excellent. And 166, which includes the other comments, obviously. Nothing. Excellent. And 167. This is Ngāti Hakairo. Everybody's happy with that. And then 168. Seems to be no opposition to the propositions in there. And the final page, 169, with just the one captured there. Excellent. So were there any other issues that people wanted to address and felt needed mentioning now that haven't been captured by the summaries that anyone's aware of? Claire.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. It's just that point about the application of the Waikato River Settlement Act and the Waikato River Authority being mentioned more explicitly in the plan itself. Yeah, like I found the page, but yeah, that I think it's the plan overview. Just it does mention the regional council. But it does, I'm pretty sure it didn't mention that. And I just think that'd be helpful. It just sort of gives a bit more robustness around the planning framework. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think that makes abundant sense. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Yeah, I guess I've got just a query around process, and it just felt quite weird to me to have mana whenua groups submitting to this when they are such a crucial part of, you know, the space, for want of a better word. Yeah, and I guess, look, I don't know, I'm not an expert in the field, and I guess it's just how we've got to do things. But they're such a critical part. It would have been nice if they'd been part of creating the draft plan, and then they wouldn't have to submit because all of their stuff would be, you know, yeah. Do you have a comment? Is there any? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a go, and then if I've missed anything, Aidan can cover it off. So as I outlined at the start, Ngāti Hakairo and Ngāti Apakura were involved from the outset. We, prior to commencing this process, we put out an expression of interest to all mana whenua who had interest in Ngāroto. And yeah, Hakairo and Apakura responded to us, and as a result, Lee Seymour and from Hakairo and Oren, who spoke today, were from the process. So from that point on, we have included them in the whole process to the point that they actually were part of our tender panel to select the supplier to help support this process. And it was great having them bring their perspective to that process. It was a first for us. So it was fantastic. And then, yes, they have been part of the many hui and back and forth with the project teams the whole way through. So they have been providing that input along the way. Noting that today's, obviously Oren spoke from the runanga of Apakura. The Hakairo speakers were speaking as individuals today, just make that clarification. But yeah, they've been involved. Is there anything I've missed there, Aidan?
No, I think that gives us that.
No, thank you for that.
Right. Excellent. Well, look, I think we've covered everything off that we need to in respect to this piece of work. Can I acknowledge councillors Claire and Liz in terms of their involvement and in the creation of this as work? Really appreciate your commitment and expertise in guiding that process through. And I think it's a pretty sound document. I get the sense that this has landed well and just feels right. So without further ado, turn our attention to the recommendations. I understand there's a small change to be made, which will go on the screen, which is just enabling there to be any typographical error changes made. But in essence, the recommendations are to receive Aidan's report, to note that we've consulted on the draft, that we receive that we've received and consider the written submissions and hear and consider the verbal submissions arising from that consultation. We also approve the amendments to the draft plan to incorporate changes as a result of the submissions received and capturing the points that we've discussed here today, particularly the piece around Waikato River Authority inclusion in one of those responses. And notes the final amended version of the draft plan will be brought back to council for formal adoption. And then the additional paragraph, which should appear by magic behind me. Oh, it's more than what I was expecting. But it's your garden variety delegates authority to the group manager, Sally, to make non-material amendments to the draft Ngā Roto Reserve Management Plan as amended in accordance with the recommendation D prior to this plan being presented to council for adoption. Makes sense. Cool. That being the case, can I look to the group for a mover and a seconder? You're going to move, quite fitting, Claire, and can I have a seconder? Lou will second that. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Well done. Hey, great work, team. It's, as I said before, it's an impressive piece of work. Obviously very collaborative, and as I said, I think it's landed well. And thank you for your time and commitment, and obviously our colleagues around the table too, including Tiffany. Kia ora. Right, moving on then to our next item on our agenda, which appears at page 255. It's the public art loan and mural item. And we have Anne, Blythe and Gina with us today. Take a seat, ladies. Lovely to see you both. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, kia ora koutou. This report considers two proposed pieces of public art to be displayed in Cambridge, either on or near the Gaslight Theatre, the WAG sculpture and a mural to be painted on the wall of the theatre. Staff sought and gained endorsement from the Cambridge Community Board for the artworks at their May meeting. As the policy stipulates, all public art is to be approved through the SPNP committee. Staff are now seeking approval for this proposal. So happy to take the report as read and answer any questions that the committee might have.
Cool, excellent. I love art. Let's paint it everywhere. Any questions for these two fine people in respect of this report? The mural is very cool, just saying. No, no questions? Makes abundant sense, does it not?
Yeah.
Are you going to move it for me then, Andrew?
Yep.
And Mike Pettit will second that. I will put the motion then. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Look at that. That's a world record for an item. That's great. It's a really neat piece of art. Really neat piece of art. Excellent. And our next item on our agenda is the Fast Track Approvals Act. North Waipa, South Hamilton Spatial Study Update. So we have Vanessa and Quentin with us today to take us through this very fast-moving and ever-evolving space. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Susan, and morning councillors. So I'm presenting an update on the Fast Track Approvals Act. The Act establishes a fast track approval framework for considering and determining resource consents and notices of requirement for regionally or nationally significant projects that would otherwise be considered under the RMA. On the 6th of October 2024, the government announced its decision to list 149 projects in Schedule 2 as listed projects. 3 of these projects are in the Waipa district. Projects that are listed may proceed straight to a substantive application process through the Environmental Protection Authority. Projects that are not listed require approval by the Minister for Infrastructure through a referral process. And below in Table 1 is a process guide for how applications follow the substantive application process. Having looked at the Fast Track website, there's currently 1 application in the Waikato district that is going through the substantive process, and there's about 13 projects nationally that are in that phase. However, none in the Waipa area. The 3 projects in the Waipa area that are listed is the NZTA Waka Kotahi Southern Link State Highway project. Also the NZTA Waka Kotahi State Highway 1 Cambridge to Pierere project. And then there's also a housing and industrial development called the Southern Links 1 Consortium that's in the Strategic Priority Area 1 bordering on with Hamilton City but located in Waipa District. Where projects have cross-boundary issues such as the CEL1 Strategic Boundary Area, future-proof partners are collaborating with the applicants to ensure fast-track projects are in alignment with the strategic priorities for the sub-region, and collaboration is in the form of the fast-track action team, of which I'm a member of. And we meet with applicants to discuss projects and timing. A future-proof organisational framework has been set up so that the fast-track action team reports to a future-proof program management group that escalates issues to the Chief Executive Advisory Group. And at a governance level, there is also reporting to the Future-Proof Implementation Committee. That's the summary of my report, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Quentin. Claire.
Yeah, thanks, Quentin, and nice to see you too, Vanessa. Look, I'm really happy with the work that's been done. Like, they're obviously really large-scale projects and they're going to have a huge impact on those communities that are affected by that land. So that's the basis of my question around Rukahia. I don't think it's affected by the SL1 stuff, but it's just that that Rains Road intersection is of great concern to the people that live in the Rukahia village and the surrounding area, which is right on that tip, I guess, between the blue and the yellow on the map. Yeah, and I just wanted to check with you, is part of your processes to keep that community abreast of what's happening, I guess? Yeah, so they know it's coming, but I think there's a bit of a level of anxiety about it. And I think if there was some way to keep them updated or just so they know what's happening or something, yeah. Are you aware of that? And is there a plan in place for it?
Kirsty, I think, can probably better answer that for now.
So through the chair, so Quentin's presented on the fast track process and applications that impact on Waipa, but Vanessa's going to speak to the study that she is project managing with Future Proof, which is on that Hamilton South Waipa North area. And I think your question possibly, Councillor Clare, relates to what Vanessa's going to speak to. So perhaps if we can just hold your question, hear from Vanessa and then come back.
Any other questions for Quentin? Lou?
Yeah, quickly. I just see there was an application, perhaps a proposed application from Te Aomere Development Limited. I know the area and I know where it is. That was actually applied in 2023, I think, wasn't it, at some stage, for a retirement village with 25.7 hectares just on the boundary of town. Have you heard any more of that or not?
Through the chair, so that project fits in with the Plan Change 29 area.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
subject to a private plan change application made to council. That's been on hold since 2023, I believe. In the last few weeks, the developer's planner had contacted council staff to consult on that project and basically in order to satisfy consultation requirements under the Fast Track Approvals Act, which is hence why I've added that as a possible referral application within the report. So not an actual application made to date, but an indication that there will be one.
Okay, because that will have quite an effect, you know, changing that area quite a bit. So yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for Quentin? Nope. Kirsty. Sorry, Vanessa, losing my mind here.
Take this as a compliment. Yeah, yeah. Good morning, all. Nice to see you all. Again, we're just going to move on to the spatial study part of the report, which is kind of scaling up a little bit from what Quentin actually has presented on. I will be taking my report as read, but I'm just going to provide a little bit more further context to the study as it is. So as I mentioned in the report, the study is pretty much an implementation activity of the Future Development Strategy implementation package that was adopted in late 2024. It responds to one of the transformational move that was outlined in the implementation plan and focuses on an area which extends to the north side of a study, pretty much including the Peacock area within the Hamilton City Council, to the west side, which will actually pass the railway corridor and up to the Elsa 1 area, fast track area that Quentin just presented on. On the east side, it actually extends up to Mystery Creek, so including this area as well, and southern side up to Ohopo. So we had actually, yes, we had the idea to extend it to Ohopo is really because the whatever decision or land activity which are included within the study will ultimately influence activities within Ohopo as well. So I was supposed to include a map. These are currently being updated because the study was initially stopped pretty much at the southern side of the airport, but we have already kind of extended this towards Ohopo. As you mentioned earlier on, Mayor Susan, this area is quite a complex area. There are a lot of moving pieces, a lot of fast moving pieces. It obviously includes the fast track application, the bundled of fast track application around which are adjacent to the strategic boundary, which ultimately is currently within Waipa City Council. We'll be moving on to the Hamilton City Council kind of boundaries. We're looking as well at the Southern Links Road project. And we also have the Southern Wastewater Treatment Plan on the eastern side as well. So all of this being very clear interdependencies within the study as well, okay? In the report, I have outlined 3 phases of a project. We're currently in that first phase of the gap analysis, which is pretty much understanding what the commonalities and the conflicts are within the literature we have reviewed for the gap analysis. Then we will move on a scenario and option exploration and ultimately ending up with a preferred scenario within the study report. Noting the study is due for completion around March 2026. We have updated the timeframes there as well to ensure that we have a good alignment with those interdependencies that I have aligned just a few minutes ago. This is a study which is a precursor to an update to the future development strategy, but also a precursor for us from a growth strategy perspective, but also for the areas that you just actually mentioned, Claire, which will be looked at, where we will be looking at developing concept plans for Rokuia and for Ohopo. So understanding actually what will happen within the study will ultimately impact on the growth strategy, which is currently in development and led by David Totman, and those concept plans that will actually be undertaken over the next year or so. Okay. So yes, I will be now taking the rest of the report as well. This includes the phases. I have also included some of the questions or themes that the study is looking to address, as well as some dates regarding engagement. And that will also include community engagement at an information level as well. Okay, so happy to answer any questions now.
Thanks, Vanessa. Great report. Any questions of Vanessa in respect to the study? No? No questions at all? Excellent. That's wonderful. So we've got a recommendation there just to receive your report. Lots of important information in there, and I'm pleased that you're happy to move that, are you, Philip? And Claire, you can second it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Excellent. Yeah, thank you very much for that really interesting and valuable report from you both. So that brings our meeting to a conclusion. Kirsty, can I invite you to close us with a karakia, please?
Kia ora. Kua mutu a mātou mahi mō tēnei wā manakitia mai mātou katoa o mātou hua o mātou whānau ia ki te aorangi. Our work is finished for the moment. Bless us all, our colleagues, our families, and peace to the universe.